is Tuesday. RawMikeRichards.com back on the air after a 2-week layoff, broadcasting from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto. 234 King Street East out of the Pacific Junction Hotel. Coming up today, we've got a very special guest. He's been on the show beforehand. Johnny Gallant from Billy Talent. They are putting on a show, a charity show, in support of the shootings that took place on the Danforth, which still, when you look at it, I think sometimes we think as Canadians that we are, Dave, adverse to that, but it is, I think, a point in time, at least I think in history a little bit, where I look at the news every night, Dave, and there is the shootings, the violence. I mean, even Chicago the other day. Over the weekend, what was it, 65 or 66 shootings in a weekend? In a weekend. That's brutal. And Chicago's such an awesome city, too. Right? I don't get that. I don't get what's happening here in Toronto. And Toronto is it can't sit there and stick its nose up in the air going, well, of course, that's what happens in the United States. Well, then you haven't been watching the news, because on a nightly basis, I don't know. It is a very strange time, I think, in history, Dave, and there are some parallels to some other very, let's just say, very sensitive issues around the world that make me nervous, I think. At this time, really tough. So we will talk to Johnny Gallant, who's just one of the awesome guys. In fact, some might remember when he came on, when Gord Downey had passed, and he came on and gave probably one of the more emotional interviews we've ever had on this show. Correct. And he is as all-round Canadian, don't you think? When you start to look at what is Canadian, I would say that Johnny Gallant plays hockey. He's just an all-around really good guy. We appreciate that he's going to do this for us today. And once again, we'll talk about how it came to be. But generally, it's just something the band wanted to do because they wanted to give back on what was probably one of the worst things I've ever seen in the city. I mean, we had the thing with the issue before with the guy in the van driving. Which was horrendously bad, too. Yeah. But did you think that we would ever have a story that would even get close to that? No. I did not. No. Both of them are hard to comprehend, that you sit there and you say, some guy in a van drove and hit countless people, out of nowhere for whatever reasons he has. I'm not going to get into that now. And then a guy to be walking down the Danforth and doing this, that's unreal. And for anybody listening today across Canada, across North America, Danforth is a very busy area of Toronto, one of many that has nothing but great food, great bars, friendly environment. Atmosphere is awesome. If you're ever in Toronto, the Danforth's probably one of the places that you actually go to. People might call it Greek Town, but it's the same thing. Same thing, yeah. It means the same thing. And so, therefore, I mean, just because of the tradition, those restaurants, usually people eating much later. Yep. Like, it's late. That's why people thought, well, at that time, tons of patios, too. Tons of patios. And Dimitri's, an ice cream place. Yeah. This degenerate, regardless of mental issues or not, this beast, this monster, because at that point, trust me, that's what he is. And a little girl dies in an ice cream shop. Like, it's heartbreaking. Yeah, so it is. We appreciate that Johnny's going to come on and talk about that today. We will take a look at a little bit of hockey. We'll take a look at some football. Mm-hmm. And of course, Johnny Football, as you know, gets the trade to Montreal, and they put him in within 10 days, maybe not even, but within 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know how many practices he would have had. 6. Maybe it's less than that. Probably less. Yeah. Probably less than that. And so for him, who hasn't started in 2 or 3 years, I don't know necessarily. Well, look, we'll play these clips. Once again, property of Bell Media, and this is actually from ESPN. And looking at that body of work, we'll comment afterwards. We'll have our take on this. But this is what happened with Hamilton at Montreal, Johnny Football's first start in a regular season CFL game.
Johnny Manziel is back.
The debut of Johnny Football Canada.
He understands the situation, and he knows the hype machine is all around him. And here's Johnny. Pressure on right away. And he's picked off right away. His first pass is intercepted. That's not the start Johnny wanted, to say the least. First and 10 from near his 50. Here's the blitz. Manziel escapes and escapes again. Johnny tossing it out, and it's picked off. Johnny Manziel's debut not going anywhere near the plan. And Manziel goes deep, and it's picked. And Johnny Manziel makes the tackle. And that might have a little anger in it. Manziel retreats, and it's picked again. His fourth interception. Looks like Manziel's not going to finish this game.
Bad days happen in football. That was the most picks I've ever thrown in a game, and it's humbling.
So that is, once again, his debut. And here was my take on this. There were a million things going against him. For that to be successful that night literally would have been a miracle, and almost to a degree would have made me feel nervous about the Canadian Football League if a guy has been out for 2-3 years, Dave, been with and that doesn't make no argument about this, the worst team in the league.
By far.
There's nothing that they do well, Dave.
No.
Nothing.
No, there
isn't.
I
mean, even if I look at special teams, I mean,
their coach has a hard time taking off a headset. That's how crappy the Alouettes are, Mike.
No protection, no weapons, and we can't stop anybody. Let you get at that win, Johnny. I looked at it as, in the way that I think that he says he looks at it. He realizes this is this weird, massive test in another league, in another country that he's going through. I mean, he went to Cleveland. This is worse. This is definitely worse. So why did he go in? Gate. This is a gate-driven league. They're not getting rich by that TSN contract, trust me. So you need something to happen at the turnstile. So they thought, okay, well, we're going with him, whether he's ready or not. And we knew, and look, Milt Stegall talked about it. You heard Henry Burris talk about it. You heard Matt Dunnigan talk about it. He just simply hasn't had the reps. He's not familiar with even, I don't even know if the language, but my takeaway from it was, and I'm still saying the same thing I said 2 years ago. If he had protection and he had some weapons and a defense that can stop some people, why did the Argos not take him? I'm not talking about Bethel, Thompson, whatever that is, and Ricky Ray. Trust me, great guy, been on the show many times, Hall of Famer. Then you had Franklin. Might have been Jermaine Franklin. I'm not sure. It could have been Jermaine Franklin.
Could have been.
And I'm thinking, Toronto needs someone that the even CFL hating kind of guy, and trust me, there's a lot of that in this city, that they go, okay, well, I might go to see this. If Manziel had any protection and some weapons, he does, at least to my mind, this is like an eye test, what the coaches call an eye test. There is something there. He's not terrible. He is not, Dave, where I look at that level of talent and go, well, I don't see anything here. I do, but the chances of that being successful for a team that's that goddamn bad, I don't know how this is going to play out, because they are just shit.
Yeah, complete. It's this might be one of the worst CFL teams ever, especially in the last couple decades. You kind of look back and you try to find an O for team. It's like this is pretty close to it. And you're right, lack of practice with a new offense, with a new league that he's just kind of getting used to. I don't think it's fair to him. I think it was he shouldn't have been at the earliest. This should have been the week he starts. But even this week for him to start, I'm reluctant to say he's going to have any more success than he did last week. And
I don't think it's his fault. In fact, you saw former players, guys like Nick Lewis, tweeting in saying, "Respect, man, but you shouldn't be playing. Like you shouldn't have been in that game. You shouldn't have been starting." And that also tells you the desperation of a Montreal Alouette organization that's got to do something.
Yep. Because
they cannot sit there and do nothing or bring in, I don't know who you bring in, but I just don't know if the experiment works, and I don't think, on Johnny Manziel's shoulders, as far as I'm concerned. So how many weeks do we see that guy running around for us, trying to save his life? Looks like the Keystone Scott. I mean, it's.
That's exactly it. They're in Ottawa, by the way, on Saturday, and the Red Blacks are already 14-point favorites in that game. 14.
Yeah, nice finish, by the way, that game in Toronto. But see, here's the thing. Now they're going to want to work it out, and they'll pile it on Montreal, and they'll probably cover that number. Speaking of those that covered numbers, it was not a cover in Calgary. But it doesn't really seem to matter, Dave. They just do what they need to do. Like, they don't go in necessarily and win like they did against Hamilton. What was it, 60-3 or whatever it was last year?
Sure.
But they do the things right that allow you to win football games. Sometimes when they're not even great, they still win football games. And for Bo Levi Mitchell, he and the Stampeders just continue to look like really the team to beat.
10 from the BC 53. Four-man rush, pressure, but Mitchell steps up and throws deep, and it's on the money. And Kamar Jordan's got the touchdown. Didn't miss the second time, did he?
Second time was a charm.
53-yard touchdown strike.
See, so to me, Dave, I take a look at how the other teams are playing, and, certain teams are getting healthier. Certain teams are starting to, as you approach this many games in the season. But when I take a look at the Calgary Stampeders, I just don't think, at least to my way of thinking, that it's conceivable that they could find another way to hand over a Grey Cup to a team that they're generally better than. They're usually heavy favored. They've found various different ways to lose the Grey Cup. I just don't think this is a year where they do that again.
I don't think it is either.
I don't
know if it's a perfect season for the Calgary Stampeders because there's blips along the way. There's people that rest, and you already got, there's going to come to a point in October where they'll have first place clinched. So you start, sitting guys down. So maybe it's one or two, outs for the Stampeders, so to speak. But if you look at that Lions game, they got garbage points late in the fourth quarter. So the score was a lot nicer to the Lions than what it really was. It wasn't that close of a game.
Oh, what's going on here? I don't know. Is this who I think it is? Is he coming to... I don't think he's speaking to me. I don't think so.
Is that Donald Trump? Is that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, on Ron Mike Richards? President, I don't know... I don't know what I can say about being a huge fan or anything because I'm definitely not.
Dave, I'm going to stop you right there because I'm a huge fan of yours. I've said that for years. Dave Bastel, Slovenian. I'm huge with Slovenians.
Apparently.
As you know, my wife, Melanie, Slovenian.
Is that her name?
And that's exactly what I do. But can I start with something? And this is a joke, an absolute joke. How come when I get in my car, which, by the way, obviously, a limousine, I can't turn on the radio and hear Mike and Dave? That's an absolute joke. I don't mind the internet. It's great. I use it all the time. I'm very popular on the internet. I'm huge. Mm-hmm. And yet, I can't hear these guys on the radio. Absolute joke. Let's make radio great again. And let's put Mike and Dave on the radio.
That's a good saying.
Exactly.
Has that worked for you before?
Let me tell you what's working. I'm glad you brought that up, Dave. You're from Winnipeg.
Yep.
The local paper in Winnipeg just said, and this is a poll, scientific, that I was voted the greatest guy who's ever lived.
You told.
The greatest guy who ever lived.
I didn't know that.
And that's in Winnipeg in the local paper. So let's get that. And while we're talking turkey, which is what we do here on this show, Richards, by the way, huge talent. The Calgary Stampeders are the best team. They're the greatest team. Just like I'm the greatest president. Then they are going to win that the Super Cup this year in Canada. Greatest football team of all time. And here's something else. The Stampeders should have gone in the World Cup because there's no question they would have beat
the team that won.
That other team.
Yeah,
they would have been the greatest team.
Yeah,
and that
France.
And that was a joke too.
Yeah.
That's a joke too. But as you know, Dave, I love the show. I love you. I love Greece. And I love marriage as well. I really do. I do.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know this. I was the first person who ever got married in the United States.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And it's Donald Trump joining us on Ron Mike Richards for a very first time. You know what, Mike? I was going to ask him, but I know he had to leave because he has somebody else to phone into or maybe a Fox interview or something. I was going to ask him if there was ever a consideration that Donald Trump was interested in buying the Calgary Stampeders. Because I don't know how Calgary would react if Donald Trump was the owner of the Stampeders.
He's got to be nice to them about the pipelines and the oil and gas and the energy sector before that. But he owned, was it the Generals?
Yes, New Jersey, New York Generals. They had one of those, yeah.
Yeah. That was the Herschel Walker team.
That's right.
Was Flutie on that team too?
I'm trying to remember.
Because that was just such a weird.
The
weird.
The USFL, for all of you kids out there wondering what we're talking about, because there's been many different leagues that have gone up and down.
You are watching rawmikerichards.com, either on the dedicated YouTube channel or, of course, on the website itself, rawmikerichards.com. We appreciate that. We're going to talk to in just seconds here, Johnny Gallant, about the Danforth shooting, which, again, I think sometimes in North America, especially Canada, we just don't and can't conceive that we be at a place that looks like everybody else. I got news for you. Dave, we are everybody else.
Yes.
We're not, I mean, as much as I'm proud to be Canadian, it doesn't make you better, or it certainly doesn't make you immune to the fact that whether it's someone with mental illness, whether it is actually an act of terrorism, or just something incredibly sad that is very violent. And, of course, that did happen on the Danforth. And again, it was a while ago. The reason Johnny Gallant from Billy Talent is coming on is because he's going to talk about how they're going to perform at the Danforth Music Hall, which is here in Toronto, a historic building where some of the greatest players have ever. It's a fantastic venue, but they're doing it in support of what, to my mind, has been, if not the worst, but certainly one of the worst that we've seen, I think, in the history of Toronto in terms of modern-day violence.
A gunman killed an 18-year-old woman and a 10-year-old girl and injured 13 others in Toronto's Greektown neighborhood on Sunday, July 22nd. While police are still trying to figure out exactly what happened and why, eyewitness accounts have described a rampage that spanned several blocks. This is everything we know so far about the 350 meters of carnage. It all started near the Alexander the Great Parquet Fountain on the northeast side of Danforth and Logan Avenues. Witness Andrew Matzios said the alleged gunman, Faisal Hussein, fired several shots at a group of people waiting to cross the street. He was dressed in black and wearing a dark baseball cap. It seems like he wanted to kill as many people as he could, Matzios said. He looked like a dog baring his teeth. Matzios said he saw a woman fall as she was running, and the shooter shot the woman 2 or 3 times as she lay on the ground. He believes she died. Matzios said the gunman walked westbound, zigzagging from one side of the street to the other. After firing several shots on the south side, he appeared to reload his gun and crossed to Dimitri's on the north side, Matzios said. The gunman fired into the popular dessert spot. It was near Dimitri's that an Instagram user filmed a short video showing him turning to his right, raising a handgun, and firing at least 3 shots into the cafe. A few doors down, Nick Balkos was cleaning his restaurant when he saw a man walking west with a gun in his hand. Timestamps on security footage from Burger Stomper show the gunman walking by at 25 seconds after 10. He ran across the street, and he did it like a first-person shooting game, like a Call of Duty kind of thing, where he just pulled it out, Balkos said. He was just yelling and just bam, bam. He unleashed the whole clip. Balkos thinks the man hit 2 or 3 people on the patio outside Second Cup. Then he ran towards a tattoo shop and fired again. The gunman continued west to Seven Embers restaurant at the corner of Danforth and Bowden Street. A witness told CBC that she heard gunshots before the gunman entered the building and shot a woman in the chest. She praised police officers for administering first aid and saving the life of the victim. Police officers encountered the gunman on Bowden Street. Ontario's police watchdog said Hussein exchanged gunfire with 2 police officers. He was found dead on Danforth Avenue shortly after. The Special Investigations Unit has not determined if it was a police shooting or self-inflicted gunshot.
That's, again, the actual incident itself of what happened. And I'm looking for the one and only Johnny Gallant from Billy Talent. How you doing, John?
Oh, good. You guys are right on the fly here.
Well, you know.
Doing good.
We're very good. We
Yeah.
Oh, I got to tell you. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. Boy, really looking forward to the show itself at the Danforth Music Hall. But again, as we just sort of played just before you came on, the actual account of what happened on that street. And look, you played in this town for a long time. I'm pretty sure in your lifetime you never thought on Danforth Avenue you would ever see the footage that you've seen in the last 3 weeks.
No, I never really thought that could ever happen in Toronto, let alone Canada. And I guess there has been terrible events like this in the past and stuff, but I guess kind of take it for granted. We live in such a safe city, and we still do, even despite all of this, still one of the best and safest places to live in the entire world.
Well, the Danforth music hall itself, Dave and I had just talked about it for those that are watching around North America or beyond the show here this morning. The Danforth Music Hall is really a piece of history, isn't it, when you think about it?
It is, and I guess it's only been the last 5 or 6 or 7 years or something where they've gotten it going again, and it's awesome. It's a great place to watch concerts.
Now, for the band itself, how did this come together where you think, okay, we want to do something for charity? Was it just unanimous amongst the group? Did you really have to say anything? Or did someone come forth and say, we really got to do something here?
Well, that's exactly what happened. The Danforth where the incident happened is not too far from our own recording studio, and it just really hit home, and all of us reading the news and being really upset about it. And Ben just sent us an email suggesting that we do something. We try to rally musicians in Toronto and put a show together to raise awareness and raise money, obviously. And our intentions, or his original intention and his intention and thought, was to try and really get some of the massive artists that are from Toronto, like Drake and Bieber, and try to put on a really incredible big show. We had a limited timeline, and people are busy, and we ended up being able to put a lineup together that we did at the Danforth. So, it's really just about trying to do something nice for the community.
Yeah, and it's very well done, too, Jonathan. We look forward to it on this Saturday. When you're reaching out to these bands, and you guys put this together relatively fast, considering the timelines, and you know all about timelines because you guys just finished a world tour. How receptive were some of these bands that you guys talked to? I'm guessing, just thinking of knowing the answer here, they were very fast on board. But how did that process all work out?
Well, anybody that could do it definitely wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So, and it was right there. From there, it was all logistics. And some people even were committal without even realizing that they were busy and had to back out. So people were absolutely thrilled about the idea and really wanted to contribute.
Well, John, as I said, we never really think it's going to happen in our own communities, but as we all know, you're not immune from really any of this stuff. And even whether it's, the issues of, mental illness or whether it is actually terrorism or just a really angry sort of person who has bottomed out, we're all susceptible. But, I think that also makes you realize that the one thing that's very, very important is coming together as a community. And the one thing about community and people, obviously it's Danforth that we're talking about, which is why you see Danforth strong, but really it's the community of music. And I know that the following that Billy Talent has, they'll be there in full force because that is your community.
Absolutely. And, it's the community we grew up into when we were listening to bands and being influenced by bands. This is a kind of a normal thing. The BC Boys used to do all their stuff with Free Tibet, and Rage Against the Machine always spoke out and contributed to their communities. And it was something that we have always been aware of and I've always been involved in right from the beginning. And I think most artists, when they get to a point where they're successful, they do want to give back because you can't get to any kind of a successful point in life without help. So, and community is always the number one way to get help.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. You guys really stepped up. This is massive. We look forward to it on Saturday. How's your summer been so far, by the way, in between and that? Because I know you have some little ones as well. So summers are always, for me personally, I kind of look forward to September because they're back at school. But I don't know what's going on in your world, Johnny. What about your summer?
I'm at the cottage right now, and I had to give my my daughter and son a quick sit down that I was about to get on a conference call, and they have to keep quiet because if one of them gets hurt, I can't come running.
and John, before I let you go, I got to tell you one thing. This is kind of the cool thing about my job, I think, at times, and Dave would probably concur, that there are things that you look on over the years when you've interviewed people, and people wonder, well, do you remember the interview? Was it, did you get, is there something that stands out? There is something that I do on a regular basis at my house, and it's because of a story that you told about Gord Downie, and it has to do with putting the leaves in that leaf bag. And when you told me that Gord said, no, you got to bend the outsides of the paper paper so it stands up on itself. You put the Leafs in. I think about your story and Gord and that day. Isn't it funny? Talking about Canadiana, I think about that every time I put those stinking Leafs. Way too many times. I put them in that bag.
It could be worse.
Absolutely. Hey, Johnny, you enjoy the rest of your summer. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. And I think what you're doing on the Danforth and for the Danforth is really, really important. But I'm not surprised because you are kind of those guys, and you're certainly that guy. So thanks so much for joining us here this morning. Appreciate it, buddy.
Well, thank you. And, always great to talk to you guys.
Johnny Gallant, the one and only, joining us here today on Raw Mike Richards, talking about what they're doing on the Danforth. And Roast Beef was putting the dates and who's up there and so on. But it will be the right thing to do at the right time. But as I said, for those guys, that doesn't surprise me.
No, it doesn't surprise me at all. We were texting back and forth as soon as it was announced. He got back to me within minutes, and I said to him, you know what, whether you're able to talk to us or not, thank you for doing this. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for being leaders in the community, and thank you for being the band that you are, and why Toronto loves, and why North America and why the world loves Billy Talent. It's just, giving back to your own town in a situation like this. It's going to be awesome. I wish it was one of those things where everybody could have played, but he's exactly it. You phone up everybody. And when you're given 2 weeks notice, it's hard to sit there and say, well, I'm actually on the other side of the world at that time. I can't possibly do it on that day, but nonetheless, it's going to be awesome. It's this Saturday. Also, the Taste of the Danforth actually starts this Friday. I'll be there on the weekend, and
you know what, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, definitely.
About going down.
My wife and I talked about it, and because of the kids, because
it's packed too. It's very busy.
It's packed. Yeah, absolutely, it's packed, and we go there during the day, and they have a blast, and we're going to continue doing it.
See, I went there last year, but you were out of town.
That's right.
Last year when that happened, and we were thinking about that because it is. And look, they'll show up in record numbers. I mean, the people that want to support that community, which is literally everyone in the GTA, that's going to be very busy. And I would suggest very emotional. So if you are headed that way, just know that, the surroundings, maybe they come from out of town and maybe for some reason not familiar with what just happened. Get ready for something that's going to be very big and very emotional. You're watching RawMikeRichards.com on the website or the dedicated YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. I see that people keep doing it. We're very happy with that. Here's something else I'm really happy about. Our good friend Steven Seagal didn't see this coming.
Nope.
The Russian Foreign Ministry announced Saturday that it made Michigan-born actor Steven Seagal, 66, its special representative for improving Russian-U.S. relations. That's what I was thinking. That's who I would have picked. And get a look. Okay. This is Putin singing the Russian anthem. This is Putin. See, but he knows the words. Unlike another guest we had on the show about 20 minutes ago. So there's Steven Seagal. How do you think? Now, I know there's a weird martial arts thing that Putin has, but did I think that it would lead to Steven Seagal actually being, as they say, created to deepen humanitarian ties, as well as cultural, art, and youth ties between the two countries?
Interesting.
Did you think that? Do you think that's what he'll do? Because
mind you, most of his movies lately have been filmed in parts of deserted Russia that really have nothing going for them. So
that's kind of where he has to make them now.
Yeah, that's.
But when I think of culture, when I think of art, and I think of humanitarians, there's no question. I think of this.
The only balls he has is that badge and gun.
Is that right?
Let me show you something. Huh? Here's my gun.
That's culture.
Fair game now, okay? And here's my badge.
Badge.
This is your trophy. This is your trophy, okay? Come and get it.
Knock him on his ass.
Huh? Tell one of your fucking jadrools to come and get it, all right?
Here we go. Here's why we love Steven Seagal movies. Come on.
5,000 right now. You want that badge?
Oh. Uh-oh.
Anybody know why Richie the Bobby Lupo?
Pool ball in towel being wrapped up.
Hey, fuckface, you want to get by me?
Hey.
There's only two things stopping you. Fear and common sense. And I'm gonna cut your fucking head off.
Oh.
Hey!
Motherfucker, you knocked my teeth out!
Hey, Sticks! Come on,
Come on, Sticks. Oh, here comes Aikido, Dave. Aikido.
Get him now, come on! Come on, Sticks! Get him!
We'll get you.
Come on, man, come on! Come on, get in there!
This is Russell every weekend. People don't know that.
Focus fucking eye out! Focus fucking eye out! Come on, you got it!
Look at that.
Come on! Come on! Come on! Yeah! Come on, Sticks! Oh! Kino, you fucking move!
Nice.
Come on! Motherfucker!
Oh. That's awesome. This is so good. Anybody else? Okay. Shoved into a phone box.
I'm with Don Vittorio, so that means you can't touch me.
Oh, yeah?
That's right, I forgot.
Well, that's a punch, Russell.
Benny! How you doing, buddy?
Okay, there. See, this is why. This is why you would hire someone to be an attaché or the... Once again, the minister, a position created to deepen humanitarian ties as well as cultural and art, Dave.
That's outstanding.
And
Good scene, too.
And we just saw all that. I love those things.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
You can't get enough of that. You don't get enough of that as it is today.
I've seen every movie almost, even the ones that come out every month out of Eastern Europe. I've seen him. He can be Greek. He's been Russian a couple times now.
Bulgarian?
Bulgarian?
Oh, that's one of his favorites.
I mean, who doesn't eat up a Bulgarian martial arts film?
Thank you.
The one where he played I think a Russian guy, but he went up to Mars to fight vampires. You know what? Sir Laurence Olivier, nice try. But clearly on this issue you've been beaten. I don't need to see that.
Do you think Steven Seagal would make the top 20 NHL centers? If he put his mind to it at a young age to play hockey.
Would he be a center?
Or do you think he's a bruising winger?
Yeah, I think.
Or do you think he's a defenseman? I don't think he's a goalie. I don't think he's
definitely not a goalie.
No, he's not a goalie. No.
Although, remember the stick? You want to take a shot on me?
Well, that's true. That's true.
Oh, baby in the crease. And, oh, Seagal's he's broken Crosby's arm, and he doesn't like it. He's like when Lucic was good.
Yes.
That's who he is. So what line am I putting him on? Is he a second or third line?
Yeah, he's a second at worst, sometimes first on a power play. And then you just got to pick what side, left or right. Then he's your guy.
I think there's some coaches right now going, you know what, that's a very good point, guys. Now, Dave, you have a list of an analysis of centers in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, top 20 centers announced by the NHL Network, released on the weekend, and it's time to poke holes in it. Here we go. For everybody just listening and not actually watching, here's how he has the top 10. I shouldn't say he. The network has the top 10. McDavid, Crosby, Malkin, Matthews, McKinnon, Kopitar, Scheifele, Bergeron, Seguin, and Tavares. So if I'm reworking that, and it's funny, you haven't heard the name Steven Stamkos in the top 10, I find it odd that he's not part of that top 10. Here's how I would change things up. McDavid is, yes, number 1. Sidney Crosby, yes, is number 2. And after that, it starts to get a little bit murky because I think I would go Malkin in this situation, but Nathan McKinnon is my number 3 in this situation. So I go Crosby, McKinnon, and then after that, it's a washout. Malkin will be number 4 for me. I don't know why Austin Matthews is in the number 4 position personally, because if I'm building a team right now, and we're not talking future, we're not talking, oh, he still has 15 years left. We're talking right now. I think John Tavares is better than Austin Matthews. I think Patrice Bergeron is more valuable than Austin Matthews. And I would even go as far as saying Mark Scheifele is probably in that conversation better than Austin Matthews at this point. So I would kind of rework things to go after Milken at number 4. I would go John Tavares at number 5, Patrice Bergeron at number 6, Scheifele stays at 7, Austin Matthews at 8, Tyler Seguin because of injuries is 9, Anze Kopitar at number 10. But I would go switch with Steven Stamkos to go number 10 because Stamkos is a top 10 center. It's funny to even sit there and look at a list and say Steven Stamkos isn't part of a top 10. There's going to be Washington Capital fans out there in the number 12 spot saying Evgeny Kuznetsov is a top 12. This guy could be a top 5 scorer next year. He's going to enter the top 10 sooner or later, maybe even better than that. And when you're looking at the rest of the centers and from 11 to 20, there's discussion to say, okay, where's Sean Monahan in this conversation with the Calgary Flames? He's had some injury problems. He's not quite there yet, but will he be there sooner than later? Absolutely, because he is a first-line center.
That is the top 10, according to David Bastel. What do you think? We will put that out on Twitter later today. You can agree or disagree. What I think is interesting is sometimes when it's going right for a person, it just seems to all fall into place. And so we saw, over the weekend, John Tavares getting married.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is putting this thing together. Russell, and of course, Roast Beef, who we have not talked to in quite some time. Were you, we go to the Russ Cam. Were you invited to the wedding, or?
I was not.
Oh, what?
Man, that's outrageous. Outrageous, yeah.
That's BS.
Yeah, that is. What gift do you think? If you went there, what gift would you give him? What wedding gift?
Probably, that's tough. Probably just a picture of me smiling.
Oh, wouldn't that be? Well,
he'd hang that over his bed.
Yeah, that's what I'd hope.
Yeah, I know that's what you'd hope. Can you imagine that? And then even better, they go home to his mansion, wedding night, and he puts it up in the bedroom, and his wife goes, "What are you doing? What is that? Get that hideous thing off the wall." How good is this team going to be? Because people are going bonkers already.
Team's going to be really good.
Yeah.
If this team doesn't
conference final at least.
Honestly,
you're still really. Oh, you're creating more hatred. People. Austin Matthews had an interview that he goes, "I can't see myself ever leaving." He said, "I'm going to be here for a long time." I'm going, not according to Dave Mastel, you're not.
Oh, no. Don't worry, Austin. We know what kind of pajamas you wore as a kid.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You hugged Willie Coyote before you went to bed. Yeah, we know where you're going there, Matthews. You know what? I'll go as far as saying this. It would still surprise me if they won the division.
It would surprise you?
It would surprise me because I think Tampa Bay's the better team.
Russell's just okay. Russell, he's just salivating now.
No, I'd agree.
He's not supposed to agree.
I still think Tampa wins the division.
No wonder you weren't invited to the wedding.
Look at this guy. Where's the fight back? You're supposed to say no. You're wrong.
It's just their defense, their depth at forward, their goaltending. Unless there's injuries, I don't see how Tampa. I think Tampa's the top team in the East. Number 1. I think Leafs are number 2 in the East, but I still think because Tampa's number 1, they're still not winning the division, but I like their chances of getting out of the first round.
What about Washington and Boston? Is Washington, do they suffer the hangover of finally getting it done? New coach.
But you know what? I don't think they have a massive hangover, but I think they're probably eliminated by the second round. I don't think they win the. I was going to say Patrick division. There's something that's.
I'd like to see that again. I used to like that.
It's aging me right there. I don't think they win the Metropolitan Division. I look at the Pittsburgh Penguins on a bounce back. But going back to the Leafs for a second, and I haven't talked to many Leaf fans about their team as of late. I got millions of Leaf friends that live and bleed this team. But if Morgan Riley's your number 1. And Ron Hainsey is part of the top pairing, I got a massive problem with that. I got a massive problem with Jake Gardiner still being on this club. I got a massive problem with Nikita Zaitsev if he plays like he did last year. Travis Dermott and Connor Carrick as a third pairing. I mean, oh, good God. I mean, you may score 10 goals, but you might let in 11. because that's how crappy this defense is. Morgan Riley is a 3 on a good team. A 3 on a good team.
I think if there was a team out there that would have taken Jake Gardner, where would have got something for him, because I think the longer that he stays,
yes,
that you're going to see not only the value go down, but there's also the potential of that misread hockey IQ sometimes that you see, and I think that's going to hurt his value, and I don't think you can get back what maybe you could have, and I think that's a mistake. I think it's a mistake. And they haven't made many.
Nope.
I look at their defense, and there is a ton of room for improvement, but they're coming off a season where only 10 teams in the league let in fewer goals than them, and they've improved their defense on their forward group. So I don't think they're in such a terrible position. Yes, their defense still could be improved for sure. Hopefully Zaitsev gets back to what he was more so in the first season. This season, injuries, sickness, a bunch of that. I'm not too worried about their defense. I saw the defense that Pittsburgh won the Stanley Cup with. I saw, well, mainly just that one. Washington didn't have a great defense outside of John Carlson. Brooks Orpik is terrible.
No, Washington's defense isn't historically great, but their defense is so good that they were able to get rid of a Nate Schmidt for nothing, basically. And you know how good he was with the Vegas Golden Knights this year. So, no, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong about what the Leafs have to offer, but I look at this going, you know what? Morgan Riley could only play so many minutes. Ron Hainsey started showing his age in the last 30 games of the season and the playoffs. And if that's 1 and 2 right now, oof.
Well, I'll tell you, what is this? What's today? August the
7th or 8th or something? Yeah.
And we are not far away at all.
I look forward to
from this thing coming on. And how Canadian is it where the summer's not even over? And we're talking about, I don't know, matchups, line matchups, who's playing with who should be traded. We're looking at conference finals already, evaluation. But I'll tell you what else is Canadian. Will Arnott.
Yes.
Will Arnott's Canadian. Here's a little quiz to see how you do.
Funny as hell, too.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I think everything he does. He's done some stuff that just is crazy good. If you've never seen the weird independent movie Let's All Go to Prison,
I haven't.
You got to see that.
Okay.
He is hysterical in that. But in this case, Will is here courtesy of Vanity Fair, property of Vanity Fair, to tell you what it's like to understand Canadian jargon. Let's see how well you do.
Hey. Hi, I'm Will Arnett, and today I am teaching you Canadian slang. First, Canadian slang is hoser. It's somebody who's very Canadian. You know, heavy Canadian accent, big hockey fan, wears a toque, kind of like a redneck. Clicks. Clicks is just short for kilometers. How far is it from Winnipeg to Portage la Prairie? Oh, she's about 150 clicks, bud. Or you might say,
is that close? Is that
very close.
Molson muscle. Molson is a beer, and it refers to having a beer gut. A 2-4. Oh, man. That's a case of beer. If you come into a party in the summertime and you don't have a 2-4, you're not getting in, bud. Or you might come with a suitcase, which is just a 12. Giver. That means, like, go get it. Like, go for it. Oh, giver. Toque. That's a wool hat with a pom-pom. Or not. What you might even, in this country, I guess, call like a beanie, which I hate that word. It's so dumb. Just say toque. A Mickey. She's like a little pocket thing of Crown Royal. How's it going? Oh, pretty good. We just polished off a Mickey of Crown Royal and, to give her. A dart. That's a butt. Want to go kill a dart outside. Or a gas bear. Because they're gasping for air. Gotch, gitch, and gaunch. We talked about this.
Do you use one of those? Which would you use?
Whatever one you want to use is fine.
I haven't.
It's under.
Yeah, I don't use that.
Don't get I know what they gotch in a bunch, eh? Hey, you left your gaunch on the deck, eh, by the boat. Oh, it was a total gong show. Oh, we went down there last night.
For sure.
We went down to Palisades Park, eh, and it was just a gong show down there. Meaning it was just a zoo. It was crazy. Oh, for a rip. Just going out and having a good time. Give her a rip. A kerfuffle. Do you guys not have that word down here? Kerfuffle is like a mix-up, a big thing, a brouhaha, a kind of a fight. Timmy's, Tim Horton. Double, that's how you take your coffee, 2 creams, 2 sugars. Timbit, it's like the little round donut hole from Timmy's. Pop, that's soda. Back bacon. It's a type of pork product.
Yeah. See, and that's the one I don't like.
Really?
No.
Cut.
Wow.
It's not my favorite.
See, it's
Loonies and Toonies. Loonies are $1 coins, and Toonies are the $2 coins. I guess there was a whole thing, like a lot of Newfies were losing their teeth when the Loonies first came out because they couldn't figure out how to get the chocolate out. That's a Newfie joke, eh? Chesterfield is a sofa or a couch.
Yeah.
Muskoka chair, that's kind of like an Adirondack chair. The Peg, where both my parents are from, Winnipeg.
How about that, eh?
Toronto, 416. That came after I left. I grew up in Toronto. We didn't call it the 6. So, kind of lame. Rink rat, that's somebody who hangs out at the rink a lot, you know? He's always there. He's playing shinny on his downtime. Deking. That's a move in hockey when you come in with your stick and you make a move. That's a deke. Goal suck. Same.
Yeah.
You know, just hangs out by the goal.
Russell.
Wants to be constantly potting goals, but doesn't want to help out on the defensive side. Chirping, beaking. Chirping is like, mouthing off. And like, it's a big in hockey, if you might get on the bench after a shift and you just start chirping at them. Don't worry about it. I'll be chirping the whole time. I hope you learned some good Canadian slang. I am Will Arnett. Feel free to go. WFO. Wide fucking open, eh?
Will Arnett, courtesy of Vanity Fair there. Yeah.
Tomorrow on the show, confirmed as we speak, former Ottawa Rough Rider, Jerry Oregon.
Oh, Jerry Oregon.
13 season, all-time leading point scorer for it.
Perfect form.
Perfect form, yeah. 2 Grey Cups, 3 Grey Cup appearances.
He was a part of some pretty amazing teams. And Coach George Brancato, chewing the ice on the sideline. I mean, he saw a lot of great stuff in Ottawa. And also I'll go as far as it's actually back in Ottawa. Mm-hmm. Ottawa's actually they've revived it. It looks really good. I've not been to the new stadium. Was it TD Field or whatever?
That's right.
TD Stadium. It's really good.
Right beside where the 67s play, because there's an arena football complex, and of course the Sens are on the exact opposite side of the city, not even remotely close.
Makes a ton of sense. Before we go, though, I do want to get something now. This came out, it came out in the spring, but depending on the television that you watch, this is America, and you may not have got this. This is a commercial that with Phil Mickelson from Mizzen and Maine. They make shirts. I've never seen this ad. Maybe you have. And I guess when it came out, the internet blew up. But here's Phil as a shirt model. Woo-hoo! Including doing the worm, Phil Mickelson.
Steve Rapp sent me numerous tweets and text messages telling me how much he did not like that. And I said to him, Steve, you should do a commercial like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
Except once Steven gets on the ground doing the worm.
That's true. He's not getting up.
He's not getting up. Old Steven Rapp. Hey, we got football picks coming up soon.
Yes.
Yep. You want to go do karate in the garage? Yep. It's time!
Thanks to Johnny Gallant from Billy Talent talking about the charity show they're going to do at the Danforth Music Hall, which has been completely refurbished. I said it's been back now for 5 or 6 years, but it has a lot of history, a lot of great players, and supporting after the Danforth shooting, it's just kind of the right thing to do, which this band always seems to do, including Johnny Gallant, who is an all-Canadian beauty, Dave.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Tomorrow, Jerry Oregon. No, I'm not asking about his brother, Huge. What's the matter with you people? Actually, it's a pretty good joke. Maybe I'll use it. I don't know. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Remember, subscribe to RawMikeRichards.com.